Hello, good afternoon, my happy hour party friends. As you know, February is Black History Month, and Bob and I have something special planned for you. Look at Bob. What a cool cat he is. Thank you. Well, hello everyone. Hey, we're going to be sitting down today. A little bit of a change of venue as well. We are actually in our dining room. We've kind of rearranged things a little bit so that we could do our happy hour inside. And that is because it is a little bit raining and a cold front has come through. Now, you know, we're in Florida. And so what a cold front means is, what do you think the temperature is outside, Bob?
About 65.
65. So, you know, that's getting kind of cold. And I may have to get out my boots before dinner. I'm not sure about that. But in any case, we wanted to go forward because it's February, it's Black History Month, and we have been saving this whiskey pretty much for the past couple months. And we discovered it just by chance. We get magazines about traveling, and I think it was either Condé Nast or Departure or one of the, travel magazines. And we started to read about this whiskey called Uncle Nearest. And I was just so excited about it. And so we went out and we were able to find it at, what's that place?
Total Wines.
Total Wines. And so here it is. This is Uncle Nearest, and it's 1884. There are two other labels that are a little bit more expensive. We actually got the least expensive one, which is no big deal because of the history. He's going to love it. He knows he's going to love it. And I want to talk about the history before we start to have our drink. The funny thing about this whole idea of talking about the history, I read about the history and I was kind of familiar with the history. And I said to Bob this afternoon, I said, hey, what do you think I should say as far as the history of Uncle Nearest? And he looked at me and he goes, well, you know what I would say? Look it up yourself. What do you say?
Something like that, but I think you hit it pretty close.
Yeah. He said, well, let them look it up themselves. Let's just make the drink and let them go figure, right?
Yeah.
But no, I want to share the history. It's Black History Month. And one of the important reasons we have months dedicated to Black history is because there's so many facts and things that really aren't part of the mainstream knowledge and the culture that we know. So in this case, Uncle Nearest is one of them. And it really is a whiskey that was created in the 1800s. It was right around really the Civil War and before, when this man by the name of Nathaniel Green started making whiskey. And he was making it for a guy who owned him. He was a slave. So Uncle Nearest, as he was called, worked for an owner. He worked for a man in Tennessee. The man was actually a preacher. And I had one more thing I wanted to tell you. This whole story, do not hold me to it. So, I'm taking poetic license to the hilt. And so don't text me and argue with me and say, oh my gosh, that's not right, it happened this day or that day, whatever. Anyway, the story goes that Uncle Nearest worked for this man, he slaved for this man, he was captured by this man who had a distillery. And he also was a preacher. That goes together real well, right? I thought so too. So anyway, the preacher man who was a distiller had some of the best whiskey in the whole area in Tennessee. Well known. Well, little did they know that this man, who was the man working the distillery for him, was Uncle Nearest, and he was using some methods that he had learned.
West Africa.
West African culture, which is where he was from, West Africa, of course. And basically, he was using a way of filtering the actual whiskey with maple wood, kind of charcoal, and it's something that really West Africans were doing not only for spirits but for water. So it was a technique that he knew, and he used it, and it made his whiskey very, very mellow and very, very tasty, and it distinguished it from what was being made in Kentucky. So there's a difference between Kentucky bourbon and Tennessee whiskey, and that's the reason. Story goes that Uncle Nearest was working in the distillery, and a young man, actually a boy, a young white boy, came, and he was kind of impoverished, and he started helping out around the farm, around the plantation, with the man who owned Nearest. And he got to be kind of enamored with Uncle Nearest, and he started to follow him and watch him, and eventually he learned all the things Uncle Nearest was doing. So this young boy who was hanging out, at the distillery with Nearest, as he got older, he became a very good salesman for the product. And he went out and he was selling the product throughout the county and making, really pretty good money. And right around that point, the Civil War happened, and pretty soon, slavery was over, and Nearest was, I guess a free man. We don't know. I don't know exactly what happened from there. But because this young boy was such a good salesman, he was able to buy the distillery from the preacher man, right? And then he decided to call his brew by his name, which was Jack Daniels. So here we have it. He taught Jack Daniels how to make Tennessee whiskey. And the cool thing about this whiskey is, let's fast forward to current time. A wonderful woman who was a very successful entrepreneur, and she researched, found the family, found the grandchildren who are still working at Jack Daniels, right? And kind of recruited a few of them to work for her, and she bought a small distillery down in Tennessee and started to make Uncle Nearest with as much as the recipe as she could procure, because it's actually copyrighted and owned by Jack Daniels company, right?
Yep.
So did I say that without getting us in any trouble?
I think so.
You sure?
We'll find out.
Yeah, we'll find out. Hey, listen, maybe that'll just help us get more followers, right? So anyway, speaking of followers, YouTube, please like, follow, subscribe. We're going to continue to have more story times, but right now the important thing to do is to check in with Bob and make sure, are we ready? Are you ready?
Let's get to it.
Let's get to it. So Bob is going to have his whiskey tonight. He is going to have it, and here it is again, the bottle. He's going to have it neat. So I'm going to give him, no, neat doesn't get ice. No. Okay. So here's where the mixology people are going, oh my gosh, she doesn't.
Okay.
He's going to have his neat.
All right, how about that?
Okay.
That's nice.
Yeah, a nice big shot.
Okay.
And I am trying to kind of, since this is a happy hour, and I want to throw this out for the ladies and gentlemen who like to do thematic type parties. So in the case of me, I was thinking that if I were going to make this drink, since it's 1884, I would kind of go more for a primitive type decor. And I actually bought this primitive glass, and I'm going to make a mixed drink with my Nearest. And I'm going to be adding a little bit of tonic water and some Morello cherries, which are just delish, okay? And I am going to serve mine over ice. So let's go ahead and get some ice into my old time glasses.
I think you just brought that.
Hey, let me do my thing. I let you do your thing, right?
Right.
All right, so one more. There we go. Okay, so now for myself, I'm going to also pour a shot of Uncle Nearest over this beautiful ice. Woo!
Nice.
And I'm going to have equal parts of the tonic. Half a part of a little bit of this Morello cherry juice, so maybe not even that much, about a half of a half. And you can find this when you're lucky at Trader Joe's, and it's just really, these are wonderful cherries and a wonderful juice. And I'm going to pick out one of these cherries, and I'm going to just drop it right into my drink. So I think we're ready. Here's to Uncle Nearest.
Cheers.
Here's to you. Happy hour. I hope you're staying warm, comfortable in your cozy home. We'll see you later.